Hello everyone. So this is day 4 of getting all comfortable with talking to the camera, and this time I'm set up a little bit closer, just playing around with different views, got some light behind me, see how that goes. Okay, in the last video I asked what people might be interested in hearing, and I gave a list of things that people might kind of enjoy hearing a little bit more about. One of which was, how did I get started? How did I get into spoon carving, wood carving, all the things that I do? And as you can imagine, it's a story, or it's something that I've said to quite a lot of people. And you know, sometimes you give the long story, sometimes you give the short story, and a few things in between. I guess I got started because I have a fine art degree, I have a fine art background, so artwork, creating art, sculpture in particular was a big kind of love of mine. And well, I used to be really into rock climbing, big time, and I pulled a tendon in one of my fingers, so I wasn't able to do very much. And to cut a long story short, I just really wanted something to do in the woods, sat under a tree, you know, working with wood, something that would focus me, calm me, and ultimately make something that was kind of manageable with few tools, simple tools. And I worked for the North Face, the clothing brand in Leeds City, at the time, and I was able to get hold of a Leatherman multi-tool, which was actually a pretty good little kind of pocket tool at the time. So I kind of got hold of that, and you know, I was just enjoying carving wood. It was something that felt quite natural and really nourishing, and I grew up watching a program which some of you might know, Ray Mears bushcraft and other such things. And I remember seeing him just going to the woods with an axe and a knife, and he would make a little chopping board. He would make these things that seemed so doable, so manageable. And growing up, I just thought, oh, I really long for that, but I just did not have parents that really facilitated anything like that. And then kind of coming to present day, at the time, I thought, right, I really want to do this. I've done my fine art degree, I've spent some time, I'm working here, I just want to, you know, be sat under a tree carving. It seemed like such a wonderful way to spend a sunny afternoon. And I was really lucky, actually. I was with a friend in a bookshop, one of my favourite bookshops, you might know it. It's in Saltaire, in Salts Mill. And I turned to her and I said, you know what, Rue, I really need a little book of whittling. And no kidding, 5 minutes later, I'm looking through a little craft section there, I see the little book of whittling. And at this point I didn't know how to use a knife really, you know, I could kind of figure a lot of it out. But I really wanted to do it, and then this book kind of made it a bit more accessible. It just had crafts to do with ultimately a stick, and I thought, this is great. And I remember reading the knife grips and things, didn't really understand it, but ultimately I made, I think it was like a little kind of pick, a little kind of fork. I can't remember what it was for, making just a point. And then it got onto more complex things, and I think halfway through the book it was a little spoon. And at this point I had no kind of hook tool or anything like that. I'm just going to check it's recording. I still have this fear that it's not recording. Okay, great. I'm going to have to get better at figuring out just how to know it's recording. Yeah, and having this book was the first little kind of entry. Having the Leatherman multi-tool was just the first little kind of entry into it. And I really enjoyed it. I really liked getting to know the trees better, getting to know the wood, getting to know different woods and how they worked. And then eventually I bought a little saw and I was able to kind of cut these things, but initially I was just using the Leatherman multi-tool, which was kind of fine because I just really enjoyed interacting with the tools and with the wood. Yeah, and I really enjoyed making the spoon, and there was something, I also have a graphic design background, short-lived, but it's there. I also really enjoyed the functionality, that, I could make something that's actually useful and not just a kind of ornament. And spoons, they seem to hold ergonomics, they seem to hold design and function and play as well. You know, I could play and I could, the first one I made was absolutely tiny, but I really liked it. And then from there, I think I found more things on YouTube, got into it that way. And this was probably, I think, around 13 years ago, 15, I don't know, long time ago now, that I kind of found all this stuff. And I was very fortunate that it was at the fledgling stages of spoon carving, green woodworking, being brought kind of really back and being made far more accessible. And then I think I was doing this for maybe about 6 months, and I thought, I really want to learn from somebody, and I don't know how. I think maybe it was Barn the Spoons videos and Robin Wood's, which is funny because then I end up living in Robin Wood's house and actually finding the spoon that he makes in one of his videos, which is really a fantastic kind of full circle. And that's kind of how I got started, this sort of being injured, really wanting to sit down, this little book of whittling, and then watching some videos on YouTube. So there was probably only 2, maybe 3 videos on YouTube. And wow, yeah, I just really absorbed those, really liked doing it, started doing it all the time that I could. Making spatulas, really liking making spatulas because I was really into cooking. That's kind of how I got into it. I don't know if there's any much more kind of interesting things to say. I mean, if you've got any questions about this that you'd like to know, I'm really happy to answer. I'm really happy to make another video or just reply on comments. I think it would be really interesting to hear what's interesting to other people, I guess. That's how I got into this. From fine art, enjoying sculpture, and then working for an outdoors company, wanting to do something, sat down under the trees and just finding this little book, and finding some videos. And then finding Spoonfest in Edale, which was quite close to Leeds, which was where I was living at the time. And I went on down on the train on my own, and my eyes and mind were kind of blown because there were people that, had years on me, and they were coming over from Sweden and all these kind of things. I thought, wow, there's so much you can do. And I really enjoyed the community because I'd come from fine art background, which in my experience was a lot of ego, a lot of falseness, and a lot of kind of bravado, and really trying to beg for galleries to show your work. And I really wasn't into that. I'm a bit more of a sensitive kind of person, and the craft world is definitely a lot more gentle, a lot more forgiving, and a lot more welcoming. And so being there, wow, that was amazing. Being around all of that, and I think being around that energy at the beginning really propelled me forward with that energy of, I think this is something that I really enjoy doing. And then I think I stopped working for the North Face. I'd saved some money and I thought maybe I'll go travelling, and actually, or I could live for a few months, pay all my rent, all my bills, have food, whatever, and just, wouldn't be wonderful for a few months just to be able to sit and carve every day and not have to worry about anything else. And so that's what I did in this kind of dingy little basement in a rough part of Leeds. And I just, oh man, now I think about it, I've come from the basement and now I have my own little studio. I mean, it's a tiny studio compared to many others, but it's a space that is dedicated, it's light, it's airy, and it's going to be warm. And it's kind of interesting the way people get into these things. I don't know if that was interesting, I hope so. I'm going to call it here. Okay, I hope you're doing good, feeling well. And I'll see you on day 5, and I think I'll just start going through a few more of these questions. I quite like them as a way to bring back kind of memories and share with you, and get more comfortable. This 30-day challenge. Today was a bit harder. It's getting later and later. I'm quite tired, and yet, you just show up with where you are and practice, isn't it? This is the practice. Okay. See you tomorrow.